most people really don't fit any of the stereotypes. All my life I've been a successful woman at whatever I tried to do. I'm disciplined. I have goals. I've just been, very, very successful. And I think that in a way, in a big way, led to my weight gain. I mentioned that I founded this nonprofit that helped kids, and I was so passionate about that work that I would often stay up all night, maybe like 3 or 4 times a week, doing work, not because I had to, but just because I loved what I was doing and felt that I was making a difference in kids' lives. And I discovered that it was a whole lot easier to stay up all night if I ate while I was doing it. And so I might pull an all-nighter and maybe eat a big bag of M&Ms and 2 dozen cookies and whatever else I could find in the house just to stay awake.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited to introduce you today to Sue Reynolds. Sue is the author of The Athlete Inside, The Transforming Power of Hope, Tenacity, and Faith. She transformed herself from a 335-pound couch potato into a 135-pound World Championship qualifying triathlete, all between the ages of 56 and 62. Sue conquered fear and pride to find that the best version of herself had been there all along. And in the process, Sue hopes that her book and her story will inspire others like you, the listener, to begin their own transformational journey, whatever those journeys might be. Welcome to the show, Sue.
Well, thank you for having me on. As we were chatting a little bit before coming on, we have so much in common. This is going to be a great, fun discussion.
And for anybody who's not a triathlete and don't even know what that means, stick around. We got lots of stuff that you want to know. So, Sue, what are you most passionate about?
Oh gosh, I have a lot of passions that I'm deeply passionate about. And, one is my faith, another is my family, but then the one that we're talking about today is just fitness and especially triathlon. I just absolutely have discovered that I love training and I love racing, and it gives me something joyful to look forward to every day.
I know. What did you do before you were known as a triathlete, age group triathlete person? A woman in triathlon, I should say.
Yeah. So in my work, I founded a nonprofit that helps schools improve. It was another thing that I was passionate about, helping kids and especially lower income students. And that was my passion. And so that kind of took all my time and my energy and my attention before triathlon, and ended up, when I discovered triathlon, taking a much earlier retirement than I thought I was going to, so I could pursue this dream as well. So yeah, I do have a lot of passions. I just think that life is exciting and fun, and I like exploring and just going down roads.
You know, guys, I have to share with you that Sue just shared with me that her birthday is in 8 days. And when you watch the video, because we also have a video, she's 69, almost 69-year-old, and a grandma. A grandma of how many?
So I now have 5, 4 grandchildren in Kentucky and one 8-month-old in Colorado.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. Because
And I might mention too that in triathlon we want to get older because that like puts us in a new age group. So I just turned 69. I can't wait to turn 70. One more year and then I'm in a new age group.
I can only concur to that. That's what I thought last year. Like, oh, next year I'm going to be one age group up. This is great.
Absolutely. But it's another fun thing about triathlon is you get to look forward to getting older.
That's my husband always says. He says, if he keeps up his pace running, then when he's 75, he will be able to run the Boston Marathon.
There you go.
Hey, age is just a number. So we make what we can out of what we have with our bodies at any given time. But I want to know, I want your listeners to hear your story that the book is all about and the lifestyle that you have achieved. Can you describe to us your life back then and what led to you gaining or ballooning up to 335 pounds?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stereotypes that go with obesity. I, like most people, really don't fit any of the stereotypes. All my life have been a successful woman at whatever I tried to do. I'm disciplined. I have goals. I've just been, very, very successful. And I think that in a way, in a big way, led to my weight gain. I mentioned that I founded this nonprofit that helped kids, and I was so passionate about that work that I would often stay up all night, maybe like 3 or 4 times a week, uh, doing work, not because I had to, but just because I loved what I was doing and felt that I was making a difference in kids' lives. And I discovered that it was a whole lot easier to stay up all night if I ate while I was doing it. And so I might pull an all-nighter and, maybe eat a big bag of M&Ms and 2 dozen cookies and whatever else I could find in the house just to stay awake. And our nonprofit became very, very successful. But the larger it grew, the larger my belly grew. So as a result of all of that eating to stay awake to work. So yeah, so I think a lot of people think that people who are obese are eating to drown their sorrows, but been happily married for over 40 years, have 2 great kids, and as you mentioned, 5 wonderful grandchildren. Very happy with my life. Just had a productive reason for eating, which was to stay awake, and yeah, ballooned up to 335 pounds.
Did it didn't start when you were a child. It started during that time.
Yeah, it really started as an adult. As I started working, first as a teacher, I would stay up late writing lesson plans and started eating then. And yeah, so I was, matter of fact, in middle school, I was runner-up for the homecoming queen. So yeah, I was quite thin and I did my mother had me doing modeling as a toddler. I mean, yeah, so it wasn't until I was an adult that I put on the weight.
Did your family around you, your husband of 40 years, didn't he say, "Hey, Sue, are you getting a little chunky there, honey? Don't you want to watch your weight?" or something like
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. My children and my sons and my husband, both were quite concerned about my weight, and they would nag me over and over and over again to lose weight. And if I were on my 5th piece of pizza, everybody would say, "Mom, you don't need that 5th piece of pizza." Or, do you realize Mommy just ate a dozen cookies all in one setting? Yeah, they were really kind of nags about the whole thing. And I think that was good. I didn't listen to them, but I could hear their concern. And there was one point where my younger son said very bluntly to me, he said, "Mom, you're going to die." And I thought, I didn't think I was going to die because all through this, my blood pressure has been really low. Even when I was obese, I still had low blood pressure. So I didn't think my obesity was going to be a health issue for me. Statistically, that's wrong. As we know with COVID, people who are obese are much more likely to have serious health situations. But what bothered me in him telling me that I was going to die was that I thought how awful that must be for him to think that his mother was on a path to an early death. And but even though that bothered me so much, I still didn't lose weight. That wasn't the key.
How
So
old, how old were you then, Sue?
I was in my late 50s, maybe 57-ish, 58.
Okay.
So yeah. And then finally, what made the difference to me was there wasn't, people always will think, gosh, there must have been an illness or some kind of wake up call, and there really wasn't. I just got really tired of not being able to do things. So, and it wasn't so much because of my weight, it was more because of my size. I carried most of my weight in my belly, in my rear. And so there were just so many places that I couldn't fit. So at work, I mean, here I am running this nonprofit, and if another, a client or a funder asked me to go out for lunch, I would just have to cross my fingers that we weren't going to sit in the booth because I couldn't get my body into the booth. So I'd have to kind of, figure out how to steer us to a table so I could push the chair way back and sit down. But the thing that got me the most was that I couldn't put my own shoes and socks on because I couldn't reach around my belly to get to my feet. And so every morning I'd have to ask my husband to put my socks and shoes on for me. And it was so like just kind of humiliating to have to ask him to dress me. I mean, I just hated that. And then one morning I don't know what happened, but I just had enough. And I was sitting at the breakfast table. I remember this distinctly. I was sitting at the breakfast table with this mega calorie breakfast in front of me. And I remember just putting my hands up in front of me, palms out, and push it like I was pushing away that food and just saying enough. And that moment, I decided to make different choices. And I think it's significant that the motivation came from within me instead of what society or my family or anybody else was telling me. I had to be at the moment internally where I was ready to make that move. But because my family had been so nagging me to diet, once I started that direction, then they were like all on board and complimenting me for not eating. And every step I took when I first started walking, they were sending me texts that said "woo." And so my family was very instrumental in supporting me, but I had to decide for myself that it was time for me to lose weight.
What is it? What does it feel like? And I can only relate in a little bit because I was an obese child and teenager. So
No.
I had a similar moment like yours in my life where I was like, I am done.
Yeah.
And but as an adult, I know what it feels like as a child when you're treated like crap. But tell us from your perspective, how did people treat you because you were obese? You didn't fit in a chair, you couldn't fly in an airplane on one seat. What is it like?
Yeah, I think I was very blessed in this area that I did not feel discrimination towards me because of my size. I think that was unusual. In talking with other obese people, statistically, we know that obese people are overlooked for promotions, and there's just this stereotype that goes with them. I never experienced any teasing or anything, and maybe that was because I became obese as an adult when I think, adults are not like junior high girls, they're not as vicious maybe or whatever. So, but yeah, I feel very blessed that I never felt that kind of treatment.
Treatment. Now, you started dieting. So what did you start doing?
Yeah, so my first diet was I did a program where you count points. So it was Weight Watchers,
Mhm.
and which I think is a wonderful program. Today, when people are asking me to recommend a nutrition program, I'll tell them, the best one for you is going to be the one that you follow. But I think Weight Watchers does a lot of things in a very smart way. But for me, I started Weight Watchers. I lost, I think, 65 pounds. But the way I did it was not how I think Weight Watchers intended. Um, I would eat all of my points for breakfast. So I had waffles and pancakes and stuff, and then I just wouldn't eat the rest of the day. So
So you
that,
started like almost an intermittent fasting diet or one meal a day diet. Oh my.
yeah, yeah, and not a nutritious meal. It was all like pancakes and waffles. And um, so in that, that worked. I mean, I lost weight because I was at a calorie deficiency, but it wasn't sustainable. And especially as I started exercising a little bit, then I wanted to eat later in the day, because I was hungry. And I eventually gained almost all of the 65 pounds that I lost back. And I opened the book with that story because wanted people to think about, you know, on any journey that you're on, if whatever you do doesn't work, that's not a reason for stopping. It's just is a message that you need to find a plan B or a plan C. So when I gained all that weight back, I thought, okay, is this going to be just like all the other diets I had done all my adult life, and just another failed diet? Um, or am I going to, you know, try something different? And so the next thing I tried was basically just eating healthy. I mean, just eating how I think healthy people eat every day. There was really no mystery to it. I didn't leave out any food groups. There, you know, what I did didn't have any magical diet name to it. I just ate healthy. So yeah, and you know, tried to eat well. In the beginning, I was eating 3 times a day, and now I eat 5 or 6 times a day.
Yeah. Now,
But as
back then, Sue, did you, because I looked at your log that you shared with me, that you started a little exercise and then you started dieting, but you took a break from exercise. Is this where the 60 pounds were that you lost? And then you started back again, or was it different?
Yeah, no, I think that that was when when I regained the 60 pounds. That was when I, you know, stopped all programs. The exercise I stopped about the same time. I went to a doctor that didn't have a lot of experience with obese people exercising. And he was nervous about me exercising, and he suggested that I not exercise until I lost some more weight. Uh,
Ah,
yeah, which is, I mean, there are so many ways that majorly obese, so morbidly obese people can exercise. I mean, you know, sitting down on a recumbent bike, or doing water aerobics. So, you know, where you're doing things where you're not like jumping or running, because with a lot of, you know, when you're carrying an extra 200 pounds, that's a lot of stress on your joints to do that kind of exercising. But water aerobics, walking, there's a lot of things that obese people can do. So
yeah, so it's not like the show The Biggest Loser, where they make you believe that there's like large people, obese people, and they put them through this tire pushing, whatever ever program. And I'm like, this is not realistic. And as you just said, you know, you want to start slowly, even though this one doctor didn't know what he was doing. I feel you felt, okay, I want to move too. I want to do something else.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And my first exercise, I mean, like, I mean, I was obese. I'm carrying an extra 200 pounds. And I thought, you know, what can I do? And again, my nagging family had been nagging me to go walk with them forever. And finally, one day I just told my husband, okay, I'll do it. And my first walk was literally, we walked to the neighbor's driveway, which was maybe 100 yards from my house. And I thought I was going to die. I mean, it was more walking than I had done like in the longest time. I'm holding onto his arm, and I think I have half of my weight he is supporting, and we
Mhm.
had to take some rests along the way. And then we walked back, so it was 200 yards total, and I was done. I mean, I just collapsed on the couch, and but it was just the best feeling, because I realized I had exercised, and you know, I didn't die. You know,
Yep.
everything was fine. And so the next day we walked to the second neighbor's driveway and back, and then the day after that the third neighbor's driveway. And every time I did a walk in those days, I would text my kids, and you know, I'd say I walked to the seventh driveway, and they'd text me back and say woohoo. So yeah, and what I realized, and this is again something that I like to say to people who are just starting a journey, a fitness journey, was that what I had set up with my sons was an accountability system. That every day I checked in with them and told them what I did. They would say, "Good job, mom." So I got a little bit of positive feedback. And I also knew that if I didn't text them after this got going, that they would wonder, I wonder if mom skipped her walk today. So
Ah.
there was that accountability part in there too. So that was really helpful in the start.
So you started, you dieted, you gained the weight back, but you said, I'm going to exercise. And you said, okay, all I have to do is eat healthy. I don't eat waffles for breakfast, although waffles are very tasty, but this is not working for me. And did you choose on your own what you should eat, or did your husband help you with your meals? What was it like back then?
Yeah, so there was a program, just a local program in my town, where I live in Indiana, that taught nutrition as part of an exercise program, and then did a lot of accountability with food intake as well. And basically, I mean, if you were to look up the National Diabetes Association recommended nutrition, it was very much like that.
Mhm.
So, I would eat, they would have us eat carbs, but it would be healthy carbs like apples. We ate fats, almond butter, so I learned like what healthy foods were in that. But for someone who doesn't have access to that kind of a program, the National Diabetes Association, I think they give great, and Weight Watchers too. I
Mhm.
think they give, great advice that you can find online for free about, what does it mean to eat healthy?
Yeah.
Um,
And that's not
yeah, so
obvious.
that,
That's not obvious to a lot of people. We just talked about this recently about people that live near cities have a much healthier understanding of what a healthy meal should look like as when you go somewhere, drive in the middle of, we were in Virginia, somewhere near the mountains, and we're looking at what the offerings were, and none of us wanted to eat what the place offered. And like, yeah, we'd rather not eat, but we also have to understand that not everybody has access to that information or even that food source. So if you
right.
go to your local diner, what does it have? Grits and gravy and sauce and sausages and eggs fried over easy or whatever. And it is also hard sometimes to understand what you're supposed to do. And so I think your suggestions are great to help somebody who's like, I don't know, in my community, we don't eat. What does healthy mean? Does it open a can of beans?
Yeah.
What does it
Another
mean?
another lesson that I learned was I discovered that anytime I used the words yeah, but, what would follow was an excuse for why I wasn't going to do what I should be doing. And so, and I had the same yeah buts that you're talking about. I'd say, yeah, but, we're doing a fast food meal, and fast food is, oftentimes you can't find a lot of healthy selections, or, yeah, but this, yeah, but that. And then so I just made myself a promise that every time I found myself saying, yeah, but, I would figure out a healthy solution to it. So for me, it was if my husband wanted to go out for dinner, we'd go out for dinner, but I would bring my diet food with me. And I discovered that if I ordered a glass of, tea and a side salad, that the restaurants did not care that I brought and I'd explain, I'm on a special nutrition program. And yeah, so there's just, not allowing myself to have excuses for why I couldn't make good choices.
Yeah. So you make the healthier choices. You started walking, and your secret daydream was
Mhm.
triathlons. Where did that passion come from?
I don't know.
The
So
cool bikes.
I know I did not, this part still like amazes me. I think, how did that happen? I didn't know anyone who had ever done a triathlon. I knew nothing about triathlon. I remembered a discussion like 20 years prior where someone had told me that their husband did this cool thing where they biked for a while and swam for a while and ran for a while. I didn't know it was called an Ironman until later, or triathlon. I just knew that there was this cool thing. And I remember at the time I thought, wow, that is so cool. That you must really have to be fit to do that. So I was walking, and I did a water aerobics class because that was something I could do when I was obese. And then after class, I would like dog paddle a length or get a kickboard and I kick a length or something. And then I just got this crazy idea that if I added bike, maybe I could do a triathlon someday. So I signed up for a spin class. I didn't tell anybody what I was doing, and I never really thought I would do a triathlon. It was just this crazy little daydream that I had. But what I loved about it is that I was no longer in my mind. I was no longer exercising. I was now training. And that gave the exercise purpose, which made it so much easier to do. So, I'm like, waddling down the street in my obese body, but in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I'm training for a triathlon, it's just like, so,
How
and
much
then,
how much weight have you lost at that point? Where were you at in that journey of weight loss?
my first triathlon,
Now, when you had that idea, so you were still in the
oh,
stages
when I
of
still had
getting
my
there.
idea, oh my gosh, that was, I don't know, I was maybe, I maybe had lost 50 pounds. So I was, at 280 or something still.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I was still majorly obese. And yeah, I mean, if I had said that I was thinking about it triathlon to anybody out loud, they would have just thought I was crazy. So, but then I got to the point where I could do all the distances. And I thought, well, maybe you
So
should
you
sign
were
up.
you were in the pool swimming. So you started without the kickboard, then you started freestyle.
Yeah, well, I started breaststroke. I actually did my first triathlon breaststroke, because I couldn't, well, half breaststroke. Um, yeah, so I started with I started kind of with dog paddle and then went to breaststroke. And then I couldn't swim a whole length of freestyle, so I would do half a length freestyle and then half a length breaststroke, and then I could do a whole length freestyle. And finally I built up where I could do 16 laps of freestyle, which was, in a lot of beginning sprint triathlons for 400 meters is the distance that you do in the swim. So it's just 16 lengths. And I knew I didn't, I'd done a ton of reading online by that point. And I knew in a triathlon, you don't have to be fast. You don't have to swim freestyle. You don't have to even be able to swim the whole distance. You're allowed to hold on. There's kayaks all along the swim course, and all you have to do is tread water for a minute and raise your hand, and the kayak will come over to you, and you can hold on to the kayak and rest if you want to. And a lot of people do. A lot of people in their first triathlon, they'll just swim from kayak to kayak, to get around on the swim.
And you painting a really nice picture because most people think a triathlon, they think Ironman,
Yeah.
Hawaii. That's what everybody thinks, and it's not true because you can start with a sprint triathlon, and the distances are manageable and shorter than all the others. And like you said, you swim kayaks there for safety, but you swim from boat to boat if you wanted to, and you have a finish time that you have to finish, but it's doable. And it's like you said, it gives you training.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like to think of it like in triathlon, it's just like track and field. In track and field, there are different distances for events, and it's the same thing in triathlon. So most people will start with the sprint triathlon, which is just the 400 to 750 meter swim. So, 16 laps of the pool. Then you get out of the water and you walk up to a place where your bike is waiting, and you get on your bike, and you take off on your bike. You're going 12 miles on the bike. And you don't have to ride your bike the whole way. I mean, if there's plenty of times when I've seen people, if there's a big hill, they'll get up off their bike and walk up the hill. And then you come back on the bike, and you can go as fast or as slow as you want. Then you go back to where your run stuff is, and you park your bike and pick up your run stuff. And that's just a 5K or a 3.1 mile run, but you don't have to run, you can walk. So that's one of the things I love about the triathlon community, is that it's just about finishing. So it's really, for most people, it's not about racing. It's just about getting across the finish line. I've always thought that the biggest success is crossing the start line, because I think that takes a ton of guts to stand at that start line and get, to start. And then just having the perseverance, no matter how slow or fast that you're going, to get across the finish line. And everybody cheers for everybody else, because it's not competitive for most people. It's just getting it done.
Yeah. So, and that's great because most people think I have to be fast. And in reality, in triathlon, I see so many people walking their run. So if you say, oh, running is not so good for my knees, you can walk it. You can walk it, and it's totally doable. And the distance initially sounds a lot because, and listeners, you heard that Sue started doggy paddling.
Yeah.
She started breaststroking. She was no swim superhero, swim team person that said, oh, yeah, I swam when I was in college and high school. No, she said, I doggy paddle and I'm getting myself fitter because I take little baby steps. I do one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So you got your diet figured out with all the help you had. Your husband and your family were rooting you on, so that's your support system. You had your daydream, secret daydream. I love that. Who helped you set your goals?
I think those just really came from me. My first goal was just to finish a triathlon. Every time I've reached a goal, then I've been curious about what can I do next. And, so the first goal was to finish the triathlon. The second goal was to see if I could do it a little bit faster. So now I'm competing against myself. And, just every time I've reached a goal and I've wondered what's the next goal. So, and one other thing about these shorter sprint triathlons, I think there's a misperception out there that once you've done a shorter triathlon, then you should do a longer triathlon and then a longer triathlon. But I've done one half Ironman, which is like 70 miles altogether racing, but I specialize in the short ones. So once you've done the short ones, you can just stick with them. You don't have to go longer. And I prefer, going a shorter amount of time, but then going really, really hard. So yeah, so that's kind of my shtick.
It's true too, because it takes also less time to train. Like when I remember when I trained for my Ironman, I was just every weekend we were gone training, long rides, long runs every weekend for months. During the week, all we did was train, 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 train. And then once I was done, I said, you know what? This is way too much work for the effort that for the result at the end. I want to do shorter distances because it requires not to give up my life. I still live my life. You can do things that I love to do and don't have to train all the time. And like you said, you can go faster because you do shorter distances.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to give your listeners an idea, when I first started training, my training was 20 minutes a day. That's all the time. I mean, I'm running a nonprofit. That's all the time I had. So, I'd go do a 20-minute swim or I'd go do a 20-minute walk or whatever, just to try to build the fitness a little bit.
Yeah. So when you went to the starting line the first time, what were you like? What was your body like? Where were you mentally?
I was terrified.
Good.
I was absolutely terrified. And again, I'd never been to a triathlon. I didn't know any triathletes. I had no idea what I was getting into. But again, the triathlon community is just so helpful and so nice. So as soon as I got there, this is a little trick that I've applied in lots of areas of my life. As soon as I got there, I looked around to try to find the smartest person that I could see. And there was a guy that had a really fancy bike, and I figured he was really smart. And I just walked up to him and I said, I'm so clueless. I don't know what I'm doing. And he held my hand and showed me, how to set up in transition, all that. And then going to the swim start, I mean, I lined up, there were 400 people in this race. I lined up the very last person. And I figured, okay, I'll have all this opportunity to watch what 399 people do before it comes to me, and that will be my education. And I was very concerned. I mean, I'm still obese, and the thought of wearing my bathing suit in public around all these people was just like horrifying. So I actually brought my bathrobe and I put it on over my bathing suit so no one could see me. But then at the start, of course, I had to take off my bathrobe. So right before it was my turn to go, I slipped it off and I handed it to my husband and I turned to walk in the water. And I didn't realize that there's professional photographers at these races. And here's this guy with his camera taking the picture of me in my bathing suit that's going to end up online. And I'm thinking, oh no. So, but that's when one of my favorite mantras has been go away pride. And I just screaming in my head as that guy was taking pictures of me, go away pride, go away pride. And just tried to get into the water as fast as I could before anybody would see me. So, but yeah, but I was like majorly terrified, and I hadn't told any of my friends or anybody except my husband that I was doing this because I was fairly certain I was not going to make it, or that I would chicken out, and I didn't want anybody to know. So, but I made it.
You made it. You
I
made it.
did.
You must have been so proud of yourself.
I was. It was really a learning experience in my first transition. I didn't realize that that was like part of the race, and I sat down between the swim and the bike and ate a sandwich and brushed my hair and, put clothes on over my bathing suit. I think I was 20 minutes in my first transition. Now my goal is 28 seconds to tell you, what a difference that was. But
Yeah.
yeah, did the bike, loved the bike, and coming back on the run, I was, dead last. But I crossed the finish line and everybody had gone home. They had already had the awards ceremony. I was so far behind everybody else. But when I came across that finish line, my husband has pictures of me holding up one finger like I'm number one, even though I was dead last. Because in my mind, I mean, I felt like I'd won the Olympics. I was just like, I crossed that finish line. Yes, I was very proud.
Yes.
That was one of the best moments of my life.
And it's such a defining moment too, that you did not give up, that
Yeah.
you said no excuses, and whatever it takes, I find my way to get to that starting line, and I do it. I'm afraid that I might lose that, like the photographer, it's already saying, oh my God, really? No, I don't want to see this. And you're dealing with all these emotions as you're tackling your most challenging physical feat at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, I mean, I love those mantras, go away fear, go away pride, no excuses, whatever it takes, find a way. Those have really spoken to me a lot.
So 4 years to lose 200 pounds, continuing the eating the way you started your new eating healthy habits, and started doing races. Instead of saying, I have to exercise, you decided you're going to train, and you trained for the races as you moved through those 4 years, right?
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
with a lot of weight loss comes a lot of loose skin.
Hmm.
And I've seen pictures. It's like you hold this big piece of skin. Did you have any surgery to remove the skin?
I didn't. And I so appreciate that question, because I think that's a question that's on a lot of people's minds. I have a lot of women tell me that again, this is a yeah, but I don't want to lose a lot of weight because then I'll have loose skin. And I know that that's something a lot of people think about. So I do have loose skin. But here's the deal. I lost my weight very slowly at a healthy 2 pounds a week. And I exercised, so that gave my body a chance to absorb some of the skin, as opposed to people that lose weight, majorly fast. The body just doesn't have time to adjust. Um, and then I discovered the miracle of spandex. so I could wear spandex like capris when I'm training, kind of holds everything in.
Yep.
Yeah, but the story I absolutely love, when my granddaughter was like 3 or maybe 4, um, she she had complimented me on the color of my shoelaces. And I said to her, Harper, that is such a sweet thing that you do, to say nice things to people. It makes people feel really good when you say nice things. I'm trying to reinforce, this kindness that she just gave me. And she looked up at me and she said, Grandma, I love your flappy arms.
Oh my, this is so cute.
So that really made me think, who said that loose skin is ugly? Or, it isn't. It's a sign that you've made a healthy choice. It's beautiful.
Yep.
So yeah, my whole attitude towards flappy skin has changed. So yeah.
Yeah, you had that huge weight loss, and like you said, you took your time to get to that, and the body
Yeah.
absorbed some of that extra fat and skin. And so many women that I see on social, they're all like, oh, look at my flabby arms, and look at the flabby this and flabby that. And I'm like, well, first off, we're getting older. We're getting more flabby. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Okay. We're
Right.
past menopause, our estrogen levels have changed, and we are getting more flabby. And it's not a sign of being lazy, being old, or whatever it is. It's like you said, in your case, you said, I'm leading a healthy lifestyle. That's what this means. Or
Yeah.
others could say, I'm just getting older. That's what that means. It's nothing bad or something that need to be fixed. And I did an episode on that. I'm very opposed that we always need to be fixed by the fitness industry, by the health industry, by the cosmetics industry, that we constantly need to be fixed. And so I appreciate you sharing that. You just said, I don't need to be fixed. I'm great the way I am. I lost the weight, got some flabby skin hanging around, but boy, I crush you in a triathlon.
Yeah. The other thing is that I think when you see people on TV shows where people have lost a lot of weight fast,
Mhm.
and when people picture flabby, the extra skin, the excess skin, they're picturing those folks. And, I'm picturing them in my mind right now. I'm seeing these rolls of excess skin. But if you think about skin, if you pinch the back of your hand, that's how thick skin is. It's not thick. So when you see people that have these rolls, what you're seeing is people who haven't lost all their fat yet.
Yep.
So once I lost all my fat, the excess skin kind of, wasn't like in rolls. It just kind of is there, So
Very good point. A very
yeah,
good point.
yeah. So and that means that, it's really easy to hide behind clothes. I mean, a lot of people look at me and say, they can't believe that I lost 200 pounds. So just because, yeah. But before I lost all the weight, of course, there was still weight underneath that skin.
Mhm.
So
So are you tracking your nutrition and I mean, you probably, as a triathlete, you track your exercise. So tell us more how you go about tracking, because I'm a big fan of tracking progress. If you don't write it
yeah.
down, you don't know if it's working or not. So tell us more about it.
Yeah, so my nutrition, since I started this, so for almost a decade, I have logged every single bite that's gone in my mouth every single day. I use an online app called MyFitnessPal, which
Mhm.
I absolutely love. It's basically you just enter your food in there, and then you can look at all of your nutrients and all of that, and it will tell you, it will send you little celebration confetti when you hit a goal mark, and I love all of that. So yeah, I've logged my what I've eaten every single day for years, and one of the promises I made myself is that even when I went off the wagon and maybe had a day or a couple days where I ate, like I used to, that I would still log that food, and then I'd have to see, oh, that was 3,500 calories in one day, So and that, I mean, it was educational really to realize once I added up all the three bowls of ice cream and the four slices of pizza, how many calories that was. So
And it's
yeah.
also unhealthy fats and the sugars and the salt and all the extras. So I recommend that apps in my program as well. It's like, it's a free MyFitnessPal, and you just start logging. It's a pain in the booty sometimes to log everything, but I love it that you're pointing out honesty. Because I know some of my clients have said, Heike, I didn't want to log it because you would see what I really ate. And I was like, then why? I'm not
Yeah.
judging you. I'm here to help you understand the waffle and the bagel and the whatever else you're eating, how that relates to why you're not seeing results or why you have
Right.
low energy and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Another trick I did with MyFitnessPal, which really helped me a lot, which I still do every day, I log my food the day prior to the day. So, like before I go to bed tonight, I'll log my food for tomorrow. And then that just gives me a roadmap for tomorrow of what I'm eating and how many calories it's going to end up being. So I'm always like pre-planning my food, which for me helps me stay on track a little bit. So
I
yeah,
love it. I'm all about pre-plan your meals. And when
yeah,
you write
yeah.
it, again, when you write it down, you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to eat because that's what I bought. I'm not suddenly going out and getting Kentucky Fried Chicken because it smells so good. And
Yeah, it helps you avoid all the spur of the moment decisions because you've
yeah.
already pre-thought everything.
Yeah. Exactly. I agree. That's a great strategy. And like I said, sometimes it's a pain in the booty to log all this, but it's so important. And you're proving, or you're showing that this really works.
Yeah. The-
Tracking results,
Another
tracking
thing,
everything.
another thing that I do that it really made it simple for me. Um, I think this would be difficult for some people, but I eat the same thing every day. I've eaten the same thing every day for 8 years. And so the logging becomes really easy. I don't have to think about anything. It's just, there might be a few little things that I swap out. And my husband and I was just telling my husband, after 7 years of eating an omelet for dinner every night, I'm finally like thinking, okay, I've had enough eggs. We're on the chicken now. So maybe for the next 7 years, it'll be chicken for dinner. But yeah, just having thought out what a good nutrition plan is and just repeating it day after day is
Mhm.
that works for me.
Yeah, it also goes well with your triathlon training because you know how many calories you burn during your training. So give us a little bit of like a quick glimpse around your training. Are you strength training? Do you do Pilates? Do you do yoga? What do you do in a week?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, when I decided to do this early retirement and go all in with triathlon, I really changed my training. And then a year ago, I started working with Olympic level coaches. I'm really blessed. They each, so I have a coaching team now of three. They each only take like a couple of age groupers, so I'm really lucky to be in with them. But they taught me, this is something I've just learned in the past couple of years, or actually this year. They taught me to think of training not as workouts, but as sessions. Bobby McGee is my run coach, and I just had a discussion with Bobby about that this afternoon. That he said, in the United States, we call what we do workouts, but everywhere else in the world is called training sessions. And so I have a 2-hour morning training session and a 2-hour afternoon training session. I do swim, bike, and run. I do strength workouts. And basically it's 4 swims a week, 3 approaching 4 runs a week. What I leave out, 3 or 4 bikes a week. And then I do brief strength training, like 15 minutes every day. And then twice a week, I do a longer strength session. So when I decided to go this route, I mean, what I said to these coaches is, I'm never going to be an Olympic champion, but there's no reason why I can't train like one. And I asked them, I said, even though I'm an old lady, I said, teach me how to train, the mental attitude, the practices, the habits, teach me how to train like a really, really elite athlete would train.
Yeah, it's so much related to mindset too. It's like where you put your mind to it and you get the work done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mindset is huge. And that's one of the things that all of my coaches have been working. Matter of fact, one of my coaches, that's his job, is to do mental performance coaching. And when you think about Olympians, I mean, people that are really competing at the highest levels, they're all good. And what sets one apart from the next is their mental, the mental part of performance.
Mhm.
It's amazing to me how much energy it takes when someone's emotionally upset, or even just to think how much energy that takes, and how to stay calm, and how much energy you can conserve for a race if you're calm before it. So yeah, so that's a whole different level that for most people doing triathlon, it's just about having a personal best. But
Yeah.
now I'm at the level where I want to be globally competitive, and so I'm just really paying attention to everything.
And it's true. Now, which brings me to the age grouper, which we both are, is we get older, we have arthritis and other niggling pains. So how do you deal with things like that?
Well, I think again, I'm kind of lucky here, in that because I didn't discover that I like sports until I was 60, I didn't spend the first 60 years of my life, breaking down the cartilage in my knees and all of that. So I think there's a lot of women my age who were born after, or at a point where they were in school after Title IX
Mhm.
that never had an opportunity in school to discover that they like sports,
Yeah.
which was me. So, for anybody who starts sports later in life, you're likely to have all the cartilage and, a fit body that will, take you on for years. So, I do have some arthritis. I get up some mornings and I think, oh man, I'm creaky today. So my dad said when you get old, he said you know when you're old because you go to bed healthy and you wake up injured. So you know,
It's like I'm all stiff. I'm like I can't move.
right. Exactly. But a lot of my strength and mobility, work is to, keep my mobility and to, keep my strength up and all of that. So
Yeah,
yeah, so go
I'm
ahead.
a big believer in cross training too. I'm like,
Yeah,
so many people in my triathlon or running community, all they do is run. And
yeah.
they run and they shuffle. And I'm known, I was a running coach for a while. And then I just,
Oh,
I don't want to be out there at 5 a.m. running people around in the track and all this. And people would always say, they see me and they're always like, fire your glutes. Because I would run behind them and I'm like, Pilates body, fire your glutes. And they're like, we should make a t-shirt just with that saying. I'm like, you guys are not using your butts, you're schlepping forward.
Yes, I can hear my coach saying the same thing as you say that. I totally understand.
So, and it's yeah, we all can benefit from better form, but you recently had a fall and an injury.
Yeah, so this year, it just kind of two quirky things. I've had two injuries in beginning of June. I ended up with precursor to a stress fracture of my lower leg. And actually, we don't think it came from running. We think it came from some kicking drills that I was doing in the swim. So I don't know, but yeah. So that took me out of running for a couple months, and while that recuperated. But you're talking about cross training. All the time that I wasn't running, then I put into the pool and started having lifetime PRs at age 68 in swim. So that was wonderful.
Yeah.
And then
PR for those who don't know what that is, it's a personal record.
right. So, and for most people, you get slower as you age. But I think because I started this at 60 and have worked so hard, I'm still getting faster, which is kind of
Nice.
exciting. So yeah, that's fun. And then recently, oh my gosh, I had this situation where this was 2 months ago. I was doing a really hard workout on a very hot day, and I didn't hydrate properly. And I passed out in the middle of the workout. I was running on an isolated road with nobody else around. So I laid on the road, across the road for a while. And finally, a passerby came up and saw me laying in the road. He thought I was dead. And he called 911, and the ambulance came and got me. And I am not conscious of any of that. I woke up in the hospital with no memory. Didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I lived. I didn't know the day of the week. Those questions that they ask you to see if you are mentally there.
Who's the current president? Ooh.
What month is it? I have no idea. So and that was a little weird. I thought, oh my gosh, I have traumatic brain injury, and I was really scared. And then because I was dehydrated, my kidneys took a hit, and I'm hearing the people in ER talk about kidney failure, and they thought I had a heart attack because, when you're exercising, running, you're breaking down muscle, and it looks like the kind of labs that you see when you have a heart attack. But yeah, so I ended up in the hospital for 3 days, and then 5 weeks after I got home, we discovered that in the fall I broke my clavicle. So we didn't know that till much later. So, but yeah, but then, I went to no excuses, whatever it takes, find a way. And I thought, okay, I can't swim because the doctor didn't want me to bring my arm up out of the water, but I could dog paddle. So I dog paddled all of my swim workouts, just to kind of keep fit so that when I did come back, I'd be okay.
Yeah.
So injury recovery became my training. That was, that was my training now.
I saw some of the videos on your Instagram account from your coaches to rehabilitate the rotation and the one with the pole where you're rolling and
Yeah,
rotating.
yeah,
Some really good,
that was hard.
some really good coaches and help along the way is super important as well.
Yes, and the other thing that I thought was really nice, when I had been working so hard for like 8 years since I decided to really commit. I mean, I was all in, I really did live by no excuses, whatever it takes, find a way. And when this happened, it was just like the straw that broke the camel's back. And I was supposed to go to Worlds in 5 weeks after that happened. And we didn't know that my clavicle was broken yet, so I could have gone. But I thought, I just can't do this. And I called my coaches and I said, I have to withdraw from Worlds. I'm just mentally not there. I'm so exhausted. And just the thought of doing any kind of training just horrifies me.
Mhm.
I thought a lot about Simone Biles and what she went through, but my coaches were amazing. I hope Simone Biles' coaches were as wonderful for her. Bobby McGee said, Sue, of all of the ways that you've impressed me, he said, I am the most impressed with you today because you had the smarts to realize you needed a break and the guts to tell me. And so we just took me off of all training for about a month. I didn't do anything and just sat in my jammies at home for 4 weeks. And then my coaches brought me back. I told them, okay, I think I can exercise, but I don't want you to tell me what to do. I don't want to organize any kind of, organized workout. And so I just started like swimming and biking for fun. And then I finally said, okay, I think I can handle you telling me what to do, but only once a day. I'm not doing 2 workouts yet. And they were very good about letting me take the reins and letting me come back at the pace that was right for me. And now I'm like so refreshed and I love it all again. And, that was such a good move on their part to not pressure me into keeping training. And yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, because that's like you said, sometimes you just need a break. You need to step away from it all and for a while to rekindle that passion that brought you to wherever that passion is in the first place, without pressure, without anybody saying, go, 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 do it, do it, do it.
Yeah, and I think that's true probably in lots of different parts of life, not just athletics and fitness. Realizing at time at work you may be burned out and maybe you need to take a mental health day or take a vacation or whatever, and just turn off from that part of your life that's causing you stress. Or if it's, if you're raising 6 children and you still have to be a mom, but maybe you need to ask a relative to come in to give you a night off so that you can just have time to yourself or whatever. I think we're afraid often that it's a sign of weakness if we say we need a break, but I've come to learn that when I talk about no stone unturned, that some of those stones are labeled rest, and that's what I need the most of to go forward, is just to take a break. Yeah, so it was very difficult time for me mentally and emotionally to admit that I, had pushed too hard and that I needed time off. And but now that I've done it, I'm very, very proud of myself for recognizing that and for telling my coaches that I need to stop for a while.
And I think that's also good advice, because that was my next question. What would you tell listeners to do if they're at the brink? And this was the perfect, literally the segment, what you just said about, it's not just about the athletics, it's everything in life that where we need to step on and say, I'm done with this. I need a break. I need to step back. Somebody help me out here. I need to take care of myself
Right.
first without anything else. And hopefully that people have, like you have, such a supportive community all around, from your family to your coaches, and the guts that you said, need a break, can't do it, don't want to do it. Let me just do my thing for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Now, with that, Sue, you also founded the American Student Achievement Institute. Tell us a little bit about that one.
So that was a nonprofit that I founded back in the year 2000. Um, our mission was to raise student achievement in all student groups. So as this was before No Child Left Behind, and it's before the government started asking schools to disaggregate data, we started asking schools to look at data for different student groups, male versus female, more affluent kids versus kids who qualified for free and reduced lunch, different ethnicities. And what schools found was that there were huge achievement gaps. And our work was always just invitational. We just would ask schools, is that okay? And, I think most, if not all, educators go into education because they love kids. And when they started seeing the discrepancies between, especially the low income kids and the more affluent kids, it just broke their hearts. And then we would help them figure out, well, what's getting in the way. And that led to working with communities. We discovered that we really needed to change the culture of the community as well as look at what was happening in the school. So the work really became about community change, and we would work with mayor's offices and economic development and big business and faith-based organizations and youth-serving organizations, and really bring everybody who cared about youth together to talk about, why do we have these discrepancies? And again, here's another place where no excuses, whatever it takes, find a way. If we love kids and we understand what a disservice we're doing to some kids, because they don't have the same opportunities as others, then, what are we going to do about that? No excuses, whatever it takes, find a way. And we would challenge the communities, and they stepped up. We had huge gains in achievement and closed a lot of achievement gaps. So yeah, I love that work. And you can see why it was so easy to pull all-nighters, because it was just such meaningful work.
It
So,
is.
yeah.
Now, Sue, is there one question you wished other interviewers would have asked you?
Oh gosh, the part of my story that usually we talk a lot about, the fitness part and the weight loss part. There's also a faith-based part of my journey, and that was a real surprise to me. I did not expect a faith journey at all, but when I had lost about 90 pounds, everything just started feeling very surreal to me. I remember thinking, who loses 90 pounds? I mean, who does that? And finally, through a lot of different things that happened, I realized that I think God was reaching out to me and giving me lots of blessings, so that, I would realize that he wanted to have a stronger relationship with me. And then I started seeing the face of God in everybody who was so kind to me. I mean, there were just so many people who showered me with kindness through this journey, and just started thinking about that as the face of God, and then started thinking about how can I be the face of God too for other people. So yeah, there's this whole faith-based part of the journey, which is really why I wrote the book. The book is about weight loss and fitness, but there's one chapter titled, I know this is you, God. And then there's some other parts where my coach at the time, my local coach, just told me a lot about his faith, and I got to witness somebody discipling, and that was just very, very powerful for me. So yeah, so that's the third part of my journey, which I don't get to talk very much about, and
Thank you for sharing that. Yes.
Appreciate the question.
Yes. So on to the book. Where can people get your book, and how can people reach you? And you also want to share where the money for your book goes.
Yeah, so the book is available just everywhere where you can buy books. So Amazon, most people will go to. And it came out in print about 1.5 years ago, but just recently, in the past few weeks, there's now an audio version. And that was bizarre to hear an actress be me and read my words. And I was so impressed with how she captured. I wondered how I say woohoo all the time, and I was wondering how she would say woohoo in the book, but she says it just like I do. So that was kind of fun. So yeah, so for people that like to listen to books on tape while they're training, they, now you can listen to The Athlete Inside. Um, so yeah, so it's available on Amazon. The proceeds, I'm donating all the proceeds to USA Triathlon Foundation for the specific purpose of helping those with disabilities engage in sports. That was, I found watching folks with disabilities do triathlon to be so motivating, and it just made me want to give back. So yeah, so what is, when people read the book, hopefully you have a book that they enjoy, but also they're donating to a really, really good cause. So
I love it.
yeah, and then the follow up with me, I have a website, SueReynolds.net. There's a lot of tips for beginners on there. There's tips about weight loss, tips about starting triathlon. And there's also a, a tool that you can use for goal setting to help you think about setting goals, what's going to get in the way, having a plan for the things that are getting in the way. So I really like that a lot. Yeah, and then I'm on Facebook, social media, and Instagram. Instagram's easy to remember, just Sue.Reynolds. So and
Yep.
all my social media is linked from the website, so just SueReynolds.net.
So, and
So
also we're putting all the links in the show notes. So while the guy's driving and listening or biking, whatever they're doing, they don't have to run and get a piece of paper out. I'm like, just go to the show notes, which will live on my website, but also will be part of the social media thing. And we'll put the link for the book in there as well, so you guys can get it easily through Amazon or wherever the link is that Sue gave me. And with that, I want to say thank you so much for sharing your story, for sharing your journey to become a triathlete and everything that goes with it. And I know my listeners appreciate your approach to hope, tenacity, and faith in that process. So thank you so much.
well, thank you, and thank you for the work that you do too. I know that you're very inspirational to the folks in your community. So I appreciate that. We're on kind of a common mission.
Thank you. So with that, listeners, okay, you got all the links, you got Sue's story, but now you got to step up to the plate. We want to hear from you. We don't just put the social media links in there just so you can scope us out, but we want to hear from you. How did this episode resonate with you? How did it impact you? What steps did you take? Or how did you change your mind through this episode, or anything that we would love to hear from you? You can reach out to Sue, and we have the links in the show notes. And you can find me on Facebook, Heike Yates, Pursue Your Spark, and on Instagram, Heike Yates, and anywhere else, all over social media. With that, I just want to thank you for being here, everybody. And thank you, Sue. And we'll see you next time on the Pursue Your Spark podcast. Ciao.